The difference here is it going to happen yet again? Do I have to adapt our formulas and our way of approaching things to expect this every other month for the next couple of years? That's sort of the way that I'm approaching this, trying to embed these things that work for us during these times, embed them into the daily routine so that we're prepared until we know that it's not going to happen again.
This is the Deep in the Weeds podcast. I'm Anthony Huckstep. As we've heard from many operators during the series, for restaurants to become more viable, consumers will need to pay more for a dining experience. A few episodes ago, Shane Delia explained just this, using Ides Melbourne as an example of an exceptional restaurant that undercharges for its premium offering. That's all good and well, but how do you convince consumers to turn the corner and appreciate the true cost of a dining experience? Peter Gunn is the owner and executive chef of Ides Melbourne. Pete, how are you, mate?
I am very well. Thank you for having me.
Awesome. It's been a little while since we caught up. In fact, it was crazy times. We were traversing around Italy, I think, last time I saw you. That's
right, yeah. I was. We've been working on a book here at the restaurant, and we were the question came up of when that time was, and I think it was 2015? Would you say?
Yeah, it was. Yeah.
Yeah. It's such a long time.
Yeah, and you were cooking in front of some of the best chefs in the world, and I was running around behind the scenes trying to write a story about it. But gee, a lot's changed since then, and Italy looks like a long way away.
It sure does. I actually, before all of this, I had a trip booked to go to Italy in September, this coming September, to go to the Grand Prix at Monza. So,
wow.
You know, that got cancelled. So I'll be here, hopefully watching on TV.
Well, let's have a look at what's going on, because Melbourne is just absolutely shattered at the moment. You've had the first lockdown and then, tried all different things to sort of survive through that period, and then you've been forced into shut it down again. How are you feeling at the moment?
Look, I am feeling, pretty positive. I stay as positive as I can through basically every day that I walk into the restaurant. It's part of my makeup these days. As a leader, I've got to be the face for my staff and the face for the restaurant. And if I'm down in the dumps, everybody else who follows my lead is going to be down in the dumps. So, look, there's no denying that it's tough times out there for everybody, and everybody's situation is different. And I'm not saying that we're in a great position, but I'm feeling okay. I've navigated this once, and we came out the other side quite well. I can do it again, but at the same time, the difference here is, which I never really took into account the first time around, is it going to happen yet again? Do I have to adapt to this current lockdown that we're in? Do I have to adapt our formulas and our way of approaching things to expect this every other month for the next couple of years? That's sort of the way that I'm approaching this, is that trying to embed these things that work for us during these times, embed them into the daily routine so that we're prepared until we know that it's not going to happen again. Because we thought it wasn't going to happen again, right?
Yeah. Can we have a look at what the first response was after that first lockdown, and what you did to get money coming in the door?
Yeah, so we've always, Ides, the restaurant, myself, I've always been quite reserved. We've always sort of made an attempt to fly under the radar. So when it all sort of hit, for me, I sort of just stepped back a little bit, took stock, and just watched, let the landscape sort of form in, let it sort of evolve into what was going to happen. So we saw restaurants close immediately to the point where they were not going to reopen. We saw other restaurants adapt into various other ways, selling merchandise and so forth. We saw others adapt to takeaway. And we actually just closed the doors. There was a gap, there was a period between being closed and Easter, I think. And I used that time to sort of, just step back. I was unaware what was happening with the JobKeeper and all of that, which is probably my biggest head fuck out of all of this. As a smaller independent operator, having to do all the books and shit like that, and having to get myself across that. That was one of the hardest things I've ever done and had to deal with. But yeah, once I sort of started to see how the customers, well, our guests that we obviously had to cancel a reservation, and people that had supported us for the 4 years we have been a restaurant. Once I started to see what their requirements were and their requests were, and how the rest of the industry was evolving and adapting, I thought, and using what we had sort of in the bank, not money wise, but just ideas wise, and concepts and things. I pulled the trigger on what we've called March. March, the name, like Ides of March. We had an idea we had planned. Everything was set in stone. The place was designed and everything to take over number 90 Smith Street, which is right next door to Ides, and we were going to create a bar. A bar up the front, function rooms at the back, join the two buildings together, and serve a more approachable offering with drinks next door. But yeah, that obviously all fell apart. One after the other, things started to make come to light that opening a business in this climate was not the right thing to do. So we had invested money into the branding of March. We had invested money into the design, and we were moments away from inking the contractors to go in and build the bar. So with that in mind, pulling that back, and then having this March brand, and the way that we approached it was like March to the bar. So we've replaced the A in the word March with some legs. We're sort of like looking at that thinking, if anything, this is a fucking perfect name for a delivered offering. So we took that as the idea and created a delivered menu. So I'm a Audi ambassador, and with the help of Audi, they provided some cars to help us deliver this, because we
Wow.
we were obviously, I was obviously of the mindset that people should fucking stay home. Stay the fuck home so we can get over this, So that was also part of my ideas of how we can play our part by staying home, but also keep other people home. So I didn't want people coming to the restaurant, picking up. I wanted to take it to them. We would be safe. They would be safe. So that sort of came together like that, with the name and the concept. And then we just worked it to, okay, there's plenty of people serving lamb shoulders. There's plenty of people cooking family meals. There's plenty of people cooking all of this stuff. What can we do that is unique to us, that's not going to take away from what we do? So we decided to serve our Ides 4-course menu in the take-home fashion. And it's essentially the restaurant standard dishes, prepped to a point where the guest, or the customer, if you will, takes it out of the takeout boxes that we provide, follows the instructions, pieces things together, warms it through the oven, then sits home and has ideally the Ides experience, delivered by this March brand.
And what was the response? What was the response to the offering that you had? And were people pretty good at putting the meals together at home?
Yeah, people look. I'm gonna just take a punt here that all of my peers can relate. The moment we started doing this, there was fuck ups everywhere. You know what I mean? Mistakes. Oh, we forgot to pack shit. We didn't do this. The instructions didn't sync up with what was in the box. Like the boys were labeling like fucking truffle salt, like truffle, and then the person didn't realize that had salt in it. So it was a debacle.
Well, you're used to finishing dishes in the kitchen, aren't you? So
Yeah, and we can save shit, right? Like anytime something's going a little bit wrong, when you have control in the plating, like you can fix it. You can adapt. Someone can run and get something or something can happen. But yeah, in this case, we were not able to do that. So it took it took a good week for us to get our bearings, because actually the response was quite great. We were able to this time back into the JobKeeper scenario. Before that all took place, it was just myself, my sous chef, and my junior sous chef coming in to do this takeout offering, and then we'd all have a car each and then go drive to do the deliveries. But then it got like beyond our control. Like we needed to bring back more people, and as we were looking to do that, JobKeeper was announced, and we were still struggling of how we were going to do that. But eventually, we managed to bring back my entire kitchen crew through the JobKeeper scheme. So I was, very happy with that, and that just was. It was a big push. We managed to, through the word of mouth and through however it all happens, people started to learn of it, and then people started to order. And then we have this concept that we run at the restaurant called One Day Sunday, which gives us an opportunity to cook and serve and create a new concept or new menu or new focus for the day. We put a lot of effort into that, and we would offer that concept here once a month, or in the restaurant. And we decided that we would create a One Day Sunday menu each and every week, so that there's a unique offering and a different offering of a standard that people expect from us each week, which worked out really great. So, even every week would have 70, 80 orders of our One Day Sunday, doubled that with our regular menu. So, look, it was a fucking it is a pain in the ass. Like as I'm talking to you now, I'm looking through a wall of like orders. I'm dancing around fucking boxes. Like, it's a pain in the ass. It's fucking hard. It's hard. Yeah, I think I went off in a direction. I can't really remember where I was going with all that.
But so you did get the chance to open the doors again. There was a period of time that Melbourne opened up before the lockdown. What was that period like for you? And did you offer a different model to the dining public that you previously did?
Well, if I touch back on like the intro and Shane's comments, I want to say that 75 to 80% of our business is tourism. It's tourists. People coming into the city, going through the city, and having, in some cases 1, 2, 3 nice meals on their 2-week holiday. And proud to say that we are one of those nice meals that these people enjoy. And that market's gone. That market's not here. We all know that. So, in an effort which we always had prior to all of this happening, is we had what was called the full Ides menu, and we had a 4-course menu. Now, our 4-course menu is simply that. It's the one that we serve through our March offering. That was always an entry level. We want to keep access available to our locals, people in the area, people who go out multiple times a week. Because this is what we have to deal with these days in people selling food for less than what it's worth, is people are able to go out multiple times a week. So we're just evolving with the industry there. But then with that market gone, who would take our higher menu, what we had to do was compress the two, or condense the two into one. So we went for a 4-course menu with a couple of the snacks that we would serve from the full Ides menu, which also brought that price point down, which made it accessible to the locals, people in the area and people in the city. So right from, like many of my peers and friends, right from the moment the restrictions were lifted, it was gangbusters. People everywhere. People, we were stacked every single night, and it was great. The energy was there. We went, I felt, above and beyond to ensure, sanitizing sections, and because we work in, I like to think, this very high caliber. We had to make sure that we weren't coming out with squeezy bottles, or the sanitizer we were using wasn't fucking, clear bottle with blue and yellow text on it. And we had to find all these things that fit the aesthetic of what we do and how we can incorporate these sanitization, like these processes, and showing people that we are doing the right thing. We had to do all of this in such a discreet manner and an elegant way, which is, it's pretty difficult, I must say, to only have people come in and like not notice and not care and bring their own, and just sort of like, man, we've probably in the 1 month we probably went through half, which is like right on display, like an Aesop hand sanitizer. We probably went through a quarter of a bottle, and we bought 4. You know what I mean? Like in preparation for all of this stuff. So look, the response was great. The people were out, but I also think, tie in what I just said to all people being out, which was one of the reasons why we're back in this situation now. Felt like there's this air of like, it's not going to affect me. I'm okay. I'm not old. I'm not, sick. We'll be fine. I'll go out. I'll do this, and that person is taking all the right steps, but are kind of loosely following those steps. And you can imagine, like, yes, there's one person doing that, but the table next to them is also doing that. The table next to them is also doing that, and then all of a sudden, everybody's fucking doing that, and so the guards dropped a little bit. If that makes sense.
Yeah. How did that make you feel in that time when you were doing everything that you possibly could, but you could see society perhaps not taking it as seriously as you were as a business?
I'm a lot more, the frustrations that I have now make me furious about that time then, because we started, like, we went to the extent of getting custom made water bottles, like laser cut, like handmade glass bottles. We got them all made so that we weren't invading people's space at the table. We weren't engaging at the table any more than we needed to. So we'd put water bottles on the table, and then nobody would drink the water. Or sometimes, because in the style of service that we have, no one would even notice that there's a water bottle on the table. It was crazy. So and all of these trials and errors, they all come with expense, right? And so to have them not really acknowledge was extremely annoying, extremely frustrating, and like I just took a step back during those times to think that, okay, I can only trust that people are doing the right thing, and I believe that people are here in the dining room now because they trust in that we're doing all the right things. That was the only thing that sort of really helped me power through that without sort of like losing it.
You sort of briefly touched on that sort of exceptional experience that you do offer and that people travel to come to your restaurant, and it's been listed in the world's 50 best discovery list and won a lot of awards. Can you tell us about the start of Ides? I know you were an important cog in the wheel of Attica at the time when the ideas started to happen. Can you tell us about the history of Ides?
Yeah, so I started as a pop-up whilst I was working at Attica. Um, Once a month, myself and a buddy, one of my closest friends, Lindsay Fush, who lives out in Hamilton, Victoria, who we met working together at the Royal Mail Hotel under Dan Hunter at the time. So we're going back like 2011. We decided to link up once a month. There was this place around the corner from where I lived that was basically just a piece of fucking shit. They didn't know what they were. There was all sorts of confusion happening there. So I thought, well, hey, I don't know what's happening with me. I'd love to just come in here once a month and do some cooking here. So we worked out an arrangement with them, and I think it was a Monday, yeah. Once a month would go on a Monday. I would wrangle up some of the stagiaires and guys from Attica, and Fush was still working at the Royal Mail, and he would wrangle up some of the stagiaires from the Royal Mail and drive down overnight. We'd meet together. We'd just have this. Essentially, we'd just get together. I would put the menu together. We would have at that time put the menu together. We'll just come together and have beers and just prep all day, and then just have this service. And we did that. We started in Kensington, out west. We cooked there for a month. Sorry, not a month, a year, once a month. And then during that time, I started to evolve as a person. My eyes started to be more focused on certain things. Push was obviously coming from 3.5 hours away. He was evolving in other ways as well. So we decided that we weren't going to do it. So we stopped. And then, I don't know, something got the better of me and I picked it up again on my own. Fush wasn't interested in making the commute. So I reached a friend of mine from a place in East Melbourne, reached out. He got me into this cafe which was there. So we started taking over the cafe there. And then, yeah, again, we just went from once a month cooking there, which was around the time that we also met. And we went to Milan and then came back, and there was some fluff around that, and people got interested and started coming, and then it became this sort of underground dinner thing that nobody could get into because it was so it was only once a month, and it was very, it was stacked. We accumulated a lot of regulars over the time, and during that time I had met people like yourself, and was working pretty solidly at Attica at the time, as you touched on, and met people there, and a lot of these people just helped me, motivated me to keep working towards something, just to believe in myself. And I met my business partners, Dave and Pete, and all things happening around that time, we eventually decided on moving into this restaurant here in 92 Smith Street, where Lee Ho Fook had just moved out of. We sort of put our pennies together, and we came in. And look, it was an interesting time. It was like I'd gone from this, at the time Attica was killing it, still is obviously, and I was doing this like ratty little pop-up, and then had this opportunity to open the restaurant. And I was 28, 29, I think. I didn't know what the fuck I was doing. I wasn't a restaurateur by any means. So I wanted to keep the energy of the pop-up, but I wanted to obviously, be like Attica and do all this stuff. And trying to find that balance was fucking hard, We didn't have any money, so the restaurant was, bare-walled and basically just had carpet under what was the Lee Ho Fook fittings essentially everywhere else. And I had all these ideas, and a lot of the people from the pop-up followed me over, and look, we just started cooking food, and look, I don't hide from the fact that at the start, we all know, like, we eventually touched on this horrible review that we got from a peer of yours in the past. Look, that was heartbreaking. That was that hurt not only me and my staff. Like, you know, there was criticism of the actual people working in here, there's criticism of the music, criticism of the lighting, criticism of the lamb was, you know, tasted was nice but didn't taste lamby enough. Like, it was a massive blow. But it's much like the situation I find myself in now. If I beat myself up, if I fucking cry, if I get all down at the dumps, my team, they're gonna be like, ah, well, fuck this guy, he can't handle this. Like, so I don't look. I took that on. I dealt with it. I'm lucky I've got and have always had a strong network around me. People who don't get enough attention, you know. When people write about the restaurant, but you know, we were able to manage through that. And following our opening and then copying this disgusting review, we actually didn't change anything, Anthony. We just kept going. It was a process that I knew was going to take time, that I'd eventually evolve into who I am today, who I'm actually very comfortable with. I understand that people still or don't like what I cook, and the reality is I don't like what other people cook as well, but I respect them and I appreciate them for playing their part in the industry, and I just hope people think the same of me. But yeah, it took time. It evolved over 4 years. We've been able to refurb the dining room. The dining room looks like it should. Looks like the expectations that people had back then. You know, we have that now. I understood my place as I was trying to kick off in this direction of this like dynamic, casual, not fine dining, but fine dining kind of restaurant, and people's expectation who hadn't been to the pop-up were like, well, he's come from Attica, so it's got to be like this fine dining thing. And so, you know, now I'm like, okay, yeah, we are a fucking fine dining restaurant. We're a modern Australian fine dining restaurant. We use high quality produce. We're professionals at what we do, and it's fucking expensive, you know, and it's got to be. And that's sort of where I am. That's where I am now. I'm sort of proud of my team, proud of our offering, and proud of the restaurant as a whole, the brand.
Can you paint a picture of your cuisine for us, and maybe even use a dish and talk us through one that sort of exemplifies your cooking?
Yeah, well, if I just go back to when we first started, it was busy. You know what I mean? It was that lack of confidence and that urge to do more than what was actually needed. So now it's a lot more focused. I'll touch on this. Look, I don't want to talk about the black box, which people know, because fuck, it kills me. Like, I got more than that. But so I'll just touch on what we're serving now. Well, actually, what we're serving now is a salted turnip pasta, which is a tortellini. Like, it's an egg yolk pasta. Like, it's a rich, fucking like luxurious pasta dough. You know, it's got like 400 grams of egg yolks to 200 grams of double zero, 100 grams of semolina. It's super rich, and it's got this like grated and salted turnip mixed through some goat's cheese as the filling. We've got some julienne black truffle on that, and then there's just this super tasty roast duck broth. That's poured table side. You know, the pasta's cooked, blanched, tossed in the tarragon oil, put on the plate, julienne truffle, and then the broth poured at the table. And then we've got, like, on the side just this to share this like pressed fried comfrey duck leg, just as a little bit of a like, here you go, oh shit, sorry mate. Here you go. Here's a little bit more duck for you.
Mate, you don't deliver to Canberra, do you?
No. Look, but you know, going back, I wouldn't have served the pasta because I was a bit like, well, I'm not an Italian restaurant. I don't want to be seen as something that I'm not. I need to do this because this is what people expect of me. Now I don't really care. Now I don't really, as long as it's tasty and as long as it's fitting, which now more than ever a pasta dish is. And there are a few things that help that get across the line here in the restaurant. One of them is to not use the Italian terminology, like because in the following dish we do have a bit of smoked soy. Do you know what I mean? So I don't want to confuse the fact that we're blending all these things together. So some things are not worth mentioning, like what the actual shape of the pasta is. So on the approach our menu, it says salted turnip pasta with roast duck broth, rather than a turnip tortelloni with duck consomme, for example. So it's about getting all of those things right that help present what we do to the guests without it being confusing.
A little earlier, you mentioned about your concerns about whether we're going to face more lockdowns and this will just be a part of our future for the next couple of years. How is that affecting your approach now to an at-home model to get through this period?
Well, it doesn't. Like, the benefit to the way that I approach things is, and if you've ever, if our listeners have ever been to Ides, the restaurant, and seen the size of the kitchen, which is, worked and inspired by every single moment that I ever spent in the Attica kitchen, we adapt. We can do anything. We can do everything here. We've done some outrageous things out of this tiny little kitchen, and dishes will come together. They shouldn't. We don't have anything fancy. We've got a 6-burner, a combi, and on Saturday nights in a 30-seater restaurant, prior to all of this, we could serve 70 people a $200 tasting menu. Just with like rotating and pushing and all of that stuff. It's a long-winded way of saying that we create the dishes to go on a takeaway in that very same kitchen, and we dream them up to be plated on the plates that we have here, and then we turn them into. We then create ways how we can pack that and send that on. We don't work backwards. We don't think, we can't pack this, or how can we create a dish that we can pack to send home, which is going to be easy. So what I'm saying is we haven't lost the drive, we haven't lost the creativity, we haven't lost the team putting forward their ideas.
Has this experience changed the sort of food you are cooking or might cook in the future with a restaurant?
No. I'm very happy with the prior to the closures and stuff. Very happy on the path that myself and the restaurant is on. So no. My answer is no. We'll always continue to cook in a way that makes me feel good, makes me feel happy, and that myself and my team believe is tasty and a true expression of the restaurant.
Well, just on that, you mentioned how you like to remain positive, especially for your team, and you also get the best out of yourself that way. Looking forward, what are you looking forward to most, and the positives to come out of this moving forward for the industry?
This is going to sound pretty brutal, but to have the industry culled a little bit, like there are a lot of places that we don't need around. There are a lot of places that are sucking resources from our suppliers and building up debts left, right, and centre. There are restaurants that, as we all know, have been underpaying, that have been compromising the integrity of restaurants across the board. Like, hey, yeah, we can all sit back and say, yeah, we pay right and we do this, but you know how people are. Their memory is long and their scope is wide. So we fall into this category regardless. If we've got a staff member tired or not feeling, their energy is not so great, I feel like the guests would automatically assume that maybe they're being hard done by here at work. So I would like to, I would like to see that the restaurants that come through this are ones that people know and trust, and that the ones that shouldn't be here in our city, in Australia, doing things the wrong way, they're gone. Because if you look, there are many reasons why I know we will survive this, why I know a lot of others on this people who have spoke on this podcast will survive this. It's because they're true professionals. You know, they run not only profitable businesses, but they have people in place to take care of the things that need to be taken care of during times like this. Others that we see falling off this, falling off the boat or falling off the whatever, however people want to interpret this, somewhere along the way something's not going right for them, and there are people that, of course, that are closing because they are not going to reopen because they've had enough and they're done with it, and I take my hat off to them. People that have had long successful careers, which is what I want for myself and plenty of my peers. I get that, but yeah, that's what I want. I'm really enjoying this current moment where the competitiveness of restaurant culture has been removed, and people are coming together a lot more. Like, we've seen it over time happen anyway, where recipes used to be quite secretive and all of that, and then over the past sort of 10 years, like the guys like Renee and Ben and all these people coming together at these conferences and stuff, and this amazing sharing of ideas has allowed people to be more fluid in discussion of all things restaurant. And this pandemic that we have just been through has, I think, taken it that next step and brought people together to discuss the nitty-gritty financials of restaurants and other things beyond the part of what they were talking of before, which I hope maintains and stays, because there are food costs is a very touchy subject, because there are people serving $100 menus with a food cost of 17%. Then there are people serving $80 menus with a food cost of 27%. Who's right? Who's wrong in that scenario? But so it's always best to keep that kind of information to yourself. But I enjoy talking about all of those things, because you can learn as a restaurateur. You can learn things from that are invaluable. Because don't forget, and I'm sure many people have said this, but as a chef these days, the amount of stuff you've got to, the amount of trades or knowledge you have just to even have an opportunity to speak on a podcast like this, like industry regarded. You've got to, your skills now have to be so wide reaching, and your intent so passionate and secure. Like, as I've been talking this entire time, we've got 4 boys in the kitchen all packing orders and all things. It's all happening, and I don't need to be involved at all because of I believe because of the systems and the principles and the foundations and the knowledge and the experience that we've all got through this, and that has all been developed over this period of time with conversations with other people.
Well, Pete, more strength to you, mate. You're a bloody legend, and it's good to catch up again after, 5 years now, I guess. And a lot's changed since then.
Yeah.
Mate, keep in touch. Hopefully you can swing the doors open again soon and have diners eating in. But keep in touch, and thanks for joining us today.
That's all right. Thanks for having me, mate. And you take care yourself. Obviously a different lot of battles that you have to face. So do your best to get through all of them.
Thanks, mate. Talk soon. This is the Deep in the Weeds podcast. I'm Anthony Huckstep. Stay tuned as we share the stories of Australia's hospo community, suppliers and producers in search of hope during this pandemic. Special thanks to executive producer Locke for making this all happen. follow us on Instagram at Deep in the Weeds Podcast, or email us at podcast@deepintheweeds.com.au. Stay safe and be well.